Hello, and welcome back to another round of ramblings of a madman. I wanted to talk today about the thing that I hear a lot sometimes, how even when an actor is done with a job, people can still remember him as a specific character. And this happens a lot more with larger actors, much larger than I am, of course. People go into certain roles, and they're remembered for those roles. Like the guy who plays Wolverine, who, man, usually I can remember his name, but right now it's escaping me. Yell in the comments if you remember it off the top of your head. If you have to think about it or Google it, don't. Only if you remembered it as soon as I mentioned him. Yeah. People recognize him as Wolverine, He's Wolverine. He's not the actor. He's Wolverine, and I think that's really cool to be recognized for a part that you play all the time, but for an actor it could get kind of dull because you're recognized for one part you played out of the 200-300 you might have. In the last 5 productions I've played many different people, but right now I'm being remembered as the bad guy because the last 2 plays I've been the lead bad guy. So, but back onto the topic of the character staying with you, I wanted to talk more about the characteristics of a character staying with you rather than the character sticking onto an actor. That's another thing altogether that I can talk about in another rambling. I just wanted to talk about, I played some bad characters, not bad as in horrible, but bad as in evil. And I'd like to think that some of their personality didn't bleed on to me, because I had a French accent for most of it. I'm not speaking in a French accent right now, so that part didn't bleed. Some people can't give up an accent for another week or 2 after their production. I know that a big part of acting is being able to put on a good performance for everybody, and a good performance involves you being able to get into the character. Method actors know this the most because method actors prepare as soon as they get the part, start to become their character. The guy who played Batman in one of the most recent movies, not Batman vs. Superman, the other guy, apparently the movie before he played Batman the first time, man, I'm really bad with names right now. He had lost loads of pounds and to play a drug addict. And he just, you'd look at pictures of him then, and you couldn't believe that 2 or 3, I think it was 4 months later, he was as buff as he was. But that's because he's a great method actor and carbohydrates. Man, carbohydrates. But, back to the personality. Some people can develop traits. Like, I know that when I wanted to play a bad guy earlier this year, when I was playing Viscera in the worst high school play in the world. It's the name, not what it is. It's a really bad play, but only if you ask the actors. I wanted to develop the evil laugh for him. I've been wanting to develop an evil laugh for a while, and so, my normal laugh started to become an evil laugh. If people said a funny joke that I didn't want to laugh out loud to, or didn't really make me, uncontrollably laugh, it was a little evil chuckle. And that's one of the things from all the evil parts that I've played that's stuck with me. I'd like to think that, the few times that I played a good guy, now that I think about it, I've already played one of the bad guys in the... Have I played a good guy ever? Is that time? That one? Tristano is the only time I've ever played a good guy. And I'd like to think the humbleness of Tristano stuck with me. Well, I guess humbleness isn't really the word. I hope the... Wow. I can't think of anything good about Tristano right now. I hope I learned something from playing the part of Tristano that positively affected my life. I know that from the last two, I've learned to be a little bit more bold. I know from the last one, I learned that it's a little bit harder to do more extreme stuff where, physical comedy was the last play I did, and so it's harder to do that than it is to do emotional stuff, stuff that involves more inflection or bringing what my life has provided me in emotion onto the stage. It's a little harder to do physical stuff that, I'm a very reserved guy in real life, and it's harder to buckle down and do that. So from these last two, I've learned to hopefully express myself more and be a little bit more confident. I hope that's what I've brought into my actual life from characters. So I want to get down into what I think the brain science of it is without actual brain science. Psychology is a deep and huge study, and I hope to go into psychology when I go to college. But I like to also break things down easy so that people can understand it. So I don't actually use a lot of actual science. I use a lot of what I call half science, which is a little bit of me looking into science, but me explaining it to you without any of the science. So we have these things called mirror neurons, and it helps us to copy stuff in our everyday lives. Well, I think that I haven't looked up any of this and stuff, so don't quote me on it. Don't put it in a textbook or anything. But I think that we can make our own the mirror neurons, and that they activate whenever we play a character. So if I play a character more confident than I am, for at least a while after that production, I'll probably be a little more confident because my mirror neurons were firing, saying, I want to copy this behavior, when you falsify that behavior. There's another thing. I was watching this TED Talk, and this girl said, fake it until you become it. And I talked a while ago about acting being lying. So the fake it till you become it, is pretty much lying to yourself until you become what you're lying about. I am a Scottish redhead. Now, the redhead part probably won't come true, but you can convince yourself you're Scottish eventually. One time I don't like to talk about this a lot, but I feel like I should here because it's something I'm getting over with, and I've been told talking to somebody about it helps you get it out there and get over with it. So I convinced myself that I had claustrophobia around large groups of people in smaller areas than comfortable. And eventually that came true, where before I hadn't had any problem with it. But I lied to myself and convinced myself I did. And that's just one example of being able to lie to yourself to be able to force a habit or style on you. I feel like the same thing can happen when you act. You can pretend to be this thing for long enough that certain characteristics from that character that you are playing will eventually end up in your life, whether you like it or not. Anyways, that's what I wanted to talk about. Sorry for pauses that I'm not going to edit out because I want this to be rough and unedited for you guys. So thanks for watching. Like, share, comment, and if you want to subscribe, go ahead and do it. Each subscription gets my channel up further when you look up Arts and Chaos in your search bar. So thank you, and have a good night, or day, or afternoon, or whatever's going on. Bye.